Hello, this is not a Sunday homily. This is a homily that I hope to give on Tuesday morning at my cousin Hal Eckard's funeral in Georgia. And it might go a little bit longer than the Sunday homily. I have no idea. But at any rate, I am using two of the readings from the from the funeral, and that is Isaiah 25, verses 6a and verses 7, 8, and 9. And then the gospel reading, John 6, 51 to 58. Well, it goes something like this. Hope it'll go something like this. When Laurie, Hal's daughter, called the other night and woke me up, I just had surgery and went to bed early. She gave me the readings for the funeral and wanted to ask me to make sure that I had a letter sent by the bishop to make sure that I was legitimate in the Diocese of Lexington so that I could preach at this funeral. Well, we worked that all out and so forth. But she says, Father, what's this Isaiah 6a? And then verses 7, 8, and 9. I said, well, Laurie, you might not understand this, but that's when the church chooses and leaves out parts. And so 6a means they took the first part, and they left out a 6b, which is the second part. Oh, okay. So I took the readings, and we discussed the problem, and I, bleeding, went back to sleep. So in preparation for the funeral, as usual, I used the readings, Isaiah, Romans, and the Gospel, John. And I said, well, I'm going to look and see what part they left out. And as you know, it goes something like, on this mountain the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples. Then it goes on this mountain he will destroy the veil that veils all peoples, the web that is woven over all nations, and it goes on. Well, I looked this up, and it said something different. Well, the fill-in. And the fill-in goes like this. On this mountain the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples a feast of rich food and choice wines, juicy, rich food, and pure, choice wines. That's the part they left out. And I says, my heavens, they left out the part that is Hal Eckard. I mean, that's Hal. He loved to go out and eat and drink. He loved to be with people. And here is a perfect example of Isaiah talking about the coming of when you get to heaven on this holy mountain. And he leaves out the most important part, at least I think so. So how, have you ever gone to his wine cellar? Have you ever had a few glasses of wine with Hal and Peggy? Have you ever tried to keep up with Hal in his drinking his Manhattans and me my scotch? Well, if you do, you just might fall on your face. Hal loved partying, eating, people. I've always, people all over. People at the country club, people at church, people in the business world, people. I always considered Hal and my brother Paul as sort of the leaders or the patriarchs of the Hehman family. And I think they were. But at any rate, that's me. They took the place of the ancient ones, Grandma or Mom, Norb, Stan, Lorraine, Dot, and Mick. And Paul and Hal, I think, were a focus of our family. This morning, we bury the last patriarch. When Hal entered a room, you knew it. Loud, boisterous, comical, commenting, singing, joking. I remember as a little kid, see, I'm much younger than he. And he'd come in and he would start Grandma's lye soap. Do you remember Grandma's? And well, he got everybody going. You knew when Hal came in to the room. Hal loved people. Not just Peggy for her many, many years of marriage. Not just his kids for many, many years. We won't go into that. But he loved people. Business people, I say, church people, good people, poor people, people. No wonder he was such a successful salesman who set up the company of selling drugs. Generic drugs, not illegal drugs. Did you ever stop and think that in our family, the Hehman family, there have been many salesmen? Norm, Stan, Paul, Hal, Matt, Mark, Mike Eckard, who runs the company. All were our good salesmen. I like to think of myself as a salesman. I sell Jesus Christ now for 51 years. And someone considered or said that St. Paul might have been one of the world's best salesmen. At any rate, Hal was a salesman, loved people. You knew when Hal came into the room. And so I think, how dare the church drop out that verse or half a verse, 6b, and only put in the first part, 6a. I chose the gospel, John 6, and the thrust of why I did it is because of the Eucharist. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. Whoever eats this bread will live forever, and the bread that I will give for you is flesh for the life of the world. Hal ate this bread often. As a grade school at St. Teresa in Southgate, Kentucky, even the year that he broke my leg at recess, we'll go into that later at the reception. As a young man or a high school student, Xavier in Cincinnati with the Jesuits. As a young man on the road or off the road during the weekday Mass. So Hal was not just a Sunday Catholic. Hal was a Catholic through and through. Well, maybe he was not the Catholic that Peggy and I would like him to have been, because he was a rather conservative Catholic. I think Peggy and I would rather him to be a little bit more of a liberal Catholic. But Hal was a Catholic through and through. And finally, I'm sure you all could make up a homily on Hal like I just did. And maybe better. Oh, okay. Think about it. And tell me about it when we get together after the final burial. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. On that mountain, the Lord will provide a feast of rich food and choice wines, juicy and pure. How is on that mountain? No longer needs to eat the Eucharist, the body and blood of Christ. because he's with him. I'm proud to call my cousin Hal a fine man, a good Catholic, and a good Christian. May he rest in peace.